Hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm EVM and this is the Tesla Model Y. This is the Tesla Model Y. That is my Model 3. I've had it for 2 years, almost to the day. And a lot of people messaged me when I bought it and put it on the channel and said, I like them, but I want a hatchback. I couldn't do with that saloon, it's just too impractical. Over the last 2 years, I've not managed to trip it up in any way. I've not, even with an IKEA trip, I've not managed to go, oh no, I can't fit something in. Now don't get me wrong, it's slightly more practical to have a hatch, but at the end of the day, it's not changed anything. This, based on the long-range Model 3 and the long-range Model Y, is £5,000 more. So I'm going to try and answer the question, should I say, is this worth £5 more than that? Or is it something more than that? I don't like cookie-cutter approaches, like Audi. Would you like an SUV, sir? We could do one in this size, or this size. You just change the photocopier size and then it churns one out. So I've Tesla done that, which makes sense from a manufacturing point of view, but I don't know. I want something a little bit different. Is it worth it? I suppose that's all I want to know. Is this worth more than that? As always, let's have a look around this and then we'll take it on the road. No Harry with me today due to childcare reasons. What can I say? He's missing out because that's the Model Y, yes, just making sure. And joking aside, you can clearly see why I'm doing that. They're the same thing. Yes, this is elongated, it's taller, it's got that SUV proportion, but I don't think anybody who's not a car person would really be able to tell the difference if it was just driving down the road. No one's going to go, wow, a Model Y that's not an electric car geek. Someone like myself, for example. So, you know what, I've never disliked this. I don't think it's the best looking car in the world, but I think it's handsome enough. And this is kind of the same. It does have a bit more of a slab fronted bit, but ultimately, I think it's all right. It's not the best looking car, like I say, but it can get away with it. You can clearly see, now I've got them side by side, the height difference. Model 3, Model Y. I mean, it's quite significant. That surprised me. This is a lot higher, and you'll see when we look inside that it's a bit of a step up compared to almost sitting into this car. So I think from the SUV side of things, people will prefer this. It's easier to get into than that is. So that's one reason, I suppose, that you might want to go for this one over the other one. But for looks, it's the same thing. The side is pretty much as you were. Taller Model 3, that's pretty much it. It is a little bit easier to get into the back, I would say, just because the height is slightly, you know, a bit easier to get into. I guess it depends who you are. Some people might not like it. But in terms of looks, I don't know, I think I prefer the Model 3 personally, just because I'm not an SUV fan. I don't get this obsession with SUVs. They're basically the same car, but more expensive, less efficient, and, well, don't look as nice personally for me. Tend not to ride as well, or handle as well. So basically, they've made the Model 3 worse and charging me more for it. So there's got to be some offset there. More practicality, of course. That's what this effectively is giving me. So is that worth it? The rear is clearly where it's at. This is the main reason for going for this over that one. There is a massive difference in height of the boot lid. Let me just put this down again. So the boot lid comes to here, about there on the Model Y. So again, much higher than I originally thought. This is the Achilles heel of Model 3. The entry to the boot is quite narrow. This one obviously does not suffer from that. And of course it has the electric tailgate, which the Model 3 now does. It is a much bigger boot. It is, I won't say colossal, side by side. Yeah, I get it. I mean, if you've got a dog, for example, you're gonna have to get one of these. Although a dog dictating what car you get seems a bit strange to me. I'll just get a smaller dog. But yeah, ultimately, this is a lot of space. This is a big boot. It's not any longer than the Model 3, I would say. Not really, so you're still not going to get any longer wardrobes or anything in it. It is easier to put the seats down. Again, I'll grab the camera and show you in a second, but yeah, for me, I can see the practicality is significantly better. But only if you were needing it in the first place. If you didn't, then I'm not sure if it's worth the upgrade. So if I grab that now, and now put that in the much dirtier Model 3, it still fits in. Not quite as big, there's a bit more space in the Model Y, but essentially it's made no difference to my day-to-day activities. And this is my point, I suppose. Only you will know if you need that over that, effectively. Only you can answer that. No reviewer can. For me, it'd be nice to have. It'd be a want rather than a need. So yeah, that is significantly higher. There's a bit of a step up almost. Much lower to the ground. I won't see you fall into it, but compared to that, pretty much see the difference in height there. The camera doesn't really bring it up as well as in person, but yeah, that's a practical boot. That's a more practical boot. So maybe there's something when you're driving it. Does it feel better? Is it that? Close the boot. Is it just a case of, I don't know, that higher driving position is worth it? And then as a package, it's there. It's what you want. It gives you that extra £5,000 worth of whatever it is that we're looking for. So let's have a look around the interior, which shouldn't take long, because as I said, it's pretty much identical to the Model 3. And then and we'll take it on the road and see if it does feel any different, or is it just a taller 3? Alrighty, now the inside will look extremely familiar, as I said, to any Model 3 owner. You've got the same screen, you've got the same steering wheel, pretty much the same sort of centre console layout. And I have to say that, you know, comparisons aside, tons of space in there. Oh. And look, Model Y delivery day, drinks. You've got loads of space in there. That feels quite nice and sturdy. I prefer this, the facelift version, to the one I have. This is definitely a step up for me. Decent door bins. Reasonable build. I mean, these materials aren't what I'd call £55,000 materials, but it's not bad. It's screwed together well. It does feel like it is robust. You know, the interior of Teslas for me are actually very good. The exterior of that, you know, the panel gaps on some of my bits on my car are subpar for a £20,000 car, let alone a £50,000 car. But the interior is actually pretty solid. I've got no issues at all. The seats are nice and comfortable. This is really easy to use. Decent sized glove box. If I just open that, I'll keep moving it. Hang on. I prefer the previous interface, if I'm honest. It's a lot easier. Decent sized glove box. Better than some, like, you know, some German manufacturers, for example, that miss half of it off for right-hand drive cars. But yeah, most of it that you buy, of course, is the back, isn't it? And of course, you've got the full panoramic roof, not just in the Model 3. There's a bulkhead, if you will, there. Again, it doesn't really affect the driver because you don't see it. It's only people in the back. So for me, this is a car that you're buying predominantly for people who are in the back seat and for what you're carrying. You know what? It's solid. Is it £55,000, which is what this currently starts at, though? No, I don't think it is. This seat here is literally as far back as it goes, and I have got tons of space. So in a normal position, which is probably a foot further ahead for me personally, you've got a lot of room back here. I mean, it really is a very roomy place to be. You've got a decent middle bench, so you can get 3 adults in here, but maybe not on a long journey. Would be that comfortable. And of course, no parcel shelf, which I feel I do need to mention actually and point something out. My mobile phone is in there. Let me just close this now. Now, I probably won't be able to pick it up on camera, but you can see inside the car. I can see in that. I'm guessing the camera can as well. So the lack of parcel shelf, I know it's heavily tinted, but I'm sorry, someone can see everything in your boot. They're going to have to go right up to the car, don't get me wrong. It's going to look very suspicious. But if you've got anything in there that is even vaguely valuable, a phone, lots of camera equipment possibly, perhaps, I wonder who might have one of those, then I'd be a little bit concerned. And I don't care whether or not you can get a third-party accessory, which ultimately gives you that. It should come as standard, or at least as option, on a £55,000 car. So there's a little bit of a security issue going on there, Tesla, I'm afraid. I will say this for it. When you're reversing, when you're looking around like this and the height that you have in the SUV, it does actually. I mean, that is quite impressive, I have to say. I do like that. And compared to other EVs, Mustang Mach-E's, things like that, other SUV electric vehicles, it is a step up. It is something quite unique, so a reason to buy this over them. And I think that pretty much leads me to the significant reason, and the main one that made me choose my Model 3 2 years ago over everything else. I always get to a charger when I'm in an other EV, and ultimately it's either full or it's not working. Then you go, for God's sake, why didn't I get that Tesla? The BMW i4, for me, that is what I'd be buying right now if I was replacing my Model 3 with another Model 3 equivalent. Forget this SUV-ness. I think it's about the same price, but a much nicer ride, a nicer interior. It's got BMW-ness. It's just a better car. But when you factor in that the BMW will be using the public network and this will be using the supercharger network, there is no comparison. None at all. I recently went to Fort William, where it has one rapid charger. One. For the whole place. That wasn't working. So then I had to choose one of two fast chargers. Same place, Fort William. I think they've got, is it 8 or 12 superchargers that are significantly quicker, always work, and we've said this time and time again, as a package, Tesla have it down and can beat pretty much any electric vehicle purely because of the network. You never ever worry about the network with a Tesla. This whole range anxiety thing that people mention with electric vehicles does not exist with a Tesla. That's why Tesla owners are so smug. Look at all those muggles using the public charging network. It feels actually pretty good. I mean, it's proper chuckable and it goes where you point it. Again, compared to like the Mach-E, significantly better. There's definitely more wind noise, but it's a taller car, so that kind of goes without saying. And it is less efficient than the equivalent Model 3, but not by a huge amount that it'd bother me, to be honest. So again, not a major disaster, especially when you have the supercharger network. It always comes back to that. Now, I am in a higher driving position, and as much as I hate SUVs, it does kind of make you feel better, safer in some way. It's like when you're driving a van. It's like, oh yeah, get to see a lot more, and a lot more scenery, and as well as safety things on the road. So, is that worth the extra to you? I guess there's no point in me telling you. You're paying £5,000 for a higher driving position and a more practical hatchback boot. The rest of the car is actually slightly worse than the Model 3. You're going to be slightly less efficient, you're paying more for it, again the £5,000 extra. It is heavier, it's less efficient, all that sort of stuff. So for me, it's a close one. I think it's very much going to be different for each person. But people don't tend to look at it as, is it worth the extra £5,000, do they? Is it worth the extra, I don't know, 15 quid a month or 20 quid a month or whatever the difference is in monthly terms? If I was getting a company car and they said, look, do you want the Model 3 or do you want the Model Y? I would probably pick the Y. I paid £40,000, give or take, for my Model 3. Would I have paid 45 for this? I don't think I would have done, It's not, I don't need the extras. It would be, again, it would be almost a luxury, a treat, something I don't really need. But you might. Now, this is the long-range version, which is quick compared to pretty much every other EV in the same sort of price bracket. Again, a major advantage of not just EVs, but Teslas as well. I mean, it sort of robs you of some pleasure, doesn't it? The fact that you can't get maximum acceleration wrong. There's no clutch to worry about. There's no, you need to be in the right gear or change at the optimum rev range or any of that. You just press your foot and go. Whee! Oh, my camera's just gone flying off the passenger seat. Brakes are all right. I'm such an amateur. Overall, I'm going to say it's probably worth the extra, but every person will be different. The Model 3 is a fantastic electric vehicle, especially when you consider the whole supercharging network package, all that sort of stuff. However, this is the Model 3 Plus, this is the Model Y, this is better than the Model 3. I will concede that it is a step up. It even feels a little bit more solid, but I think that's just because I'm higher up. If you're an SUV person, if you've always had them, because you do like that high driving position, you will definitely want to go for this. This is one problem I've got. If I decided to upgrade, go from the 3 to the Y, if I could afford that, I can't, but if I could, if someone said, I'll give you a good Part X and you can get the Y, I'm like, well, brilliant, I've picked up my new car it's the same. Oh, well, all right, well, I guess for the driver, it's no different. I'm just a bit higher up. It's like getting a really good brand new TV. You know, let's say you got in a 55-inch LED telly and you're like, that is just superb picture quality. And then someone goes, well, for a bit extra, you can get an OLED. And you go, well, I'm watching the same thing on it, but yeah, I can see that it is a better picture. Most people will probably not be bothered or tell the difference between a good LED and a good OLED telly. But they will have noticed it when they go and buy one. You know, it's that much more expensive. I think that extra £5 would go towards a home battery system. Look at it that way. Or solar panels. Yeah, £5 will get you solar panels on your roof easily. So Model 3 plus home battery, Model Y. This has been more of a comparison between Model 3 and Model Y as opposed to an EV general review. Compared to every other electric vehicle on the market in SUV land, this is the best. I'm not saying it's the cheapest. I'm not saying it's the most emotive one. There are flaws in it. I would certainly look at the panel gaps. Believe me, I know. This is fine, by the way. I'll just point that out. It does seem to be okay. But ultimately, it's just a fantastic electric. It is the best electric SUV on sale. Partly because of the network, as I've said. It just works, and it works well. It's efficient. It's spacious. It's got a fantastic infotainment system. It's just functional. It's just a little bit boring as well. I'll leave it up to you. If you think it's worth the extra, by all means. But compared to other stuff, the Ioniq 5 and the EV6, I'm not saying they're not better cars, but in terms of efficiency, this wipes the floor with them, and then it comes back to that network, which is why I would always choose this. Until, of course, Tesla open up the network to everybody, and then that takes away a significant USP of Tesla. A unique selling point is that. Right, I'm done. Thank you for watching. See you soon.